On this episode of Buff's Garage, we're going to take this 1974 International Travelall and shine it up, make it look a little better. We're going to keep the inside in and the outside out because we have a big camping trip before the weather changes. On this episode of Buff's Garage, I get in way over my head with the Travelall body and paint. So this makes this part one of a two-part episode. So in this episode, we're going to take the 1974 Travelall that you guys saw in the last episode, and we're going to finish some of the things I didn't get to finish, such as the back window, the rust in the floors, and honestly, I just want to kind of spruce it up and cover up the rust and give it a little shine and paint. It's not going to be anything show quality and definitely not as nice as like the A-Team van, which isn't great. But what we need to do is just kind of make it look nice enough that we're not going to get thrown out of the campground and hopefully get a good night's sleep in the back of this thing. I figured if a family of rodents can live back there, we can handle one night, right? Now, aside from the rust and the rodent infestation, this is a pretty solid vehicle. It has a great running 392 with a thermoquad. It's got brand new tires on it now. I've cleaned out the interior. It needs a few things, but a windshield is not one that's going to happen right now. It's $500 to get one. But we do need to kind of knock some rust off of it and maybe slather the holes with something, throw some paint on it, and take it for a drive. As many of you requested, this 1974 Travelall definitely is worth another episode. As with most of the vehicles here at Buff's Garage, it is for sale, but we need to get a little bit of use out of it first. So we're going to take it out on a camping trip, and you guys are going to follow along. Well, good morning. I've decided getting up at the crack of noon isn't quite as productive as I want to be. So I'm up at 5 a.m. instead, headed to the gym, hopefully get a good workout in, and I think it'll be a great way to start the day. It'll be a much more productive day. In the shop today, I got the 1974 International Travelall. Now this vehicle sat for decades before it came into the shop, and we got it running in an episode, which you can see up here in the corner, somewhere, over here. But we need to do a few more things to make it officially roadworthy and make it so it can go camping. First things first, to make things easy on myself, I just threw an electric fuel pump on there. Never even tested the factory fuel pump. It may work just fine. Everything's down there to hook up to the mechanical pump, so we just need to do that. Just hook it up and see if it works. If not, we'll get one on order and get it coming. Headlights. If you remember, to turn the headlights on, you just hook up the battery. That's not going to work for us. We don't like our headlights on all the time, and we sure as heck don't want to pop the hood every time we want to stop. So we're going to maybe put a headlight switch in, or at least figure out what's going on with the switch that's in there. Oh, that's right. I had a knob but no switch. Or part of a switch. Anyway, we're going to look into that. The other thing is the key. When you turn it on to start it, it's intermittent, meaning sometimes it'll start with the key and sometimes there's nothing. I'm sure it's just corrosion, but we need to dig into that and figure it out. I also have to finish working on that back window. It's all electric and currently out of the vehicle. So even though it sat outside and got a nice car wash with the rain and the wind and everything else, we should probably put the back window in and keep the outside out and the inside in. Speaking of which, while this thing does have a great engine with a 392 and a thermoquad, it has some speed holes to make it faster. And over the years, it's been repaired. And by repaired, I mean not repaired. It's just silicone. Settle down. Somebody did do a repaint on it, obviously. Here's the white. Here's the tan color. But they were losing the battle, so they just started siliconing it. And you can see that throughout the front of the vehicle, even around the windshield on the bottom side on the other side there. And just, you can go back and look. It's kind of everywhere. So how about we do just a little bit of makeshift body work and see if we can't put this back together well enough just to make it look good and, like I said, keep the outside out and the inside in. If somebody wants to do a full restore on the truck, I would allow you to do that. Just pay me a small fee to take over ownership of the truck. I will gladly take it out of the shop, put it in yours, and you can full restore it all you want. What we're going for is, can a guy, maybe on the weekends and probably some evenings, come in here and clean this up and make it look good again on a budget? It's a nice truck and it's fairly straight other than the rust, but it's not gonna go be a show winner. It's just gonna show up, look cool, and maybe do a little bit of work. We got a tow hitch on the back. But for this episode, our goal is, can we get it ready to go camping? We've got a whole lake here, a beautiful, grand lake. Plenty of places to camp, and the weather's turning cold, so we want to get a little camping in before that happens. Let's get to work. Right, I'm going to go ahead and take the original fuel filter out. Yeah, there's no blowing through it. And you know what? I'm not even going to reuse this hose. Just use it as reference. And I'll be replacing it with a Wix fuel filter. Let's get some hose. Where's the hose at? And this is why you go ahead and change those hoses out. It's hard, brittle, just falling apart. So we got new hose here. We're going to put a new hose on this end, which will be about that long, and we should have this wrapped up. So underneath here we've got our fuel pump and our wiring, everything running to where it needed to run. This was the old hose that used to feed from the secondary fuel tank. Maybe that's a primary, I don't know. But we only have one fuel tank now, so that's gonna have an inlet hose back here. And so I can actually unhook this electric fuel pump, hook that hose into here, and then this metal goes up to the carb with a fuel filter in between. So we just need to hook all that back up. All of this stuff will become deleted and we can use it on another project. So I'm gonna get to disassembling this, reassembling, and catch you up when I'm done. Okay, that's all hooked back up. We'll get all the extra stuff out of there that we don't need. But while I'm here, let's go ahead and drop this filter. We bought all the stuff to change the oil, but I didn't do it last episode, so let's do it now. We're already under here. And then, you know what? Let's do the wrong thing. Go ahead and drain this radiator. Oh yeah, it's still got a petcock. Perfect. So I haven't flushed the radiator. I haven't changed the oil. Let's do that. Get all this electric fuel pump stuff out of the way, and we'll get her back to original. Plug's been there a few years. Extreme oil change. No, not really. Just regular oil change. All right. That immediately went everywhere. Perfect. Great. You know, not surprisingly, it's running rich. But also we poured some gas down it, so just clean that up. Yep, perfect. Never even knew it was there. It's not stopping. It's not going down. It's not going down the tub because I forgot to pop it open. I'm an idiot. That's better. Now it's going down. I guess I need to clean myself up. Yep, we need gas in that oil. We about had a disaster because I forgot the drain pan plug was in, so it doesn't allow any of the fluid to go down into it. It just collects in the top, and yeah, it collected quite a bit. Guess I'll try to find my filter wrench. Now we only kind of like this engine, so I went with the cheapest oil I could get, but I did spring for the Wix filter because we do like it. So I'm going to go ahead and pre-fill the filter because that's what I like to do. I know people say it doesn't matter, but it mattered to me. Lube that gasket. So we'll put this up in place and fill her back up. Now, as you already saw, we got the finest oil that we were willing to spend money on, which means it was the cheapest one on the shelf in bulk supply. Now remember, we have not even tested to see if this mechanical fuel pump will work, so this should be fine. Should be fine. We also don't have a working oil pressure gauge, so I might take a look at that real quick. And this is why we're flushing the cooling system, in case you missed the last episode. There you go. Gross. Okay, now we'll check our oil here. And it shows the pan is full. Now we know that's going to circulate and probably drop a little bit, which is fine. We have more oil. Let's fire this beast up. See if the fuel pump works. What do you say? Fuel pump works, and it turns with the key. I don't want to get it too hot because we're going to drain this coolant right now. It's coming out a nice shade of brown out of every which way. There's some green in it, so it's not completely hopeless. And we still have all of that engine to flush. So I think the best thing to do right now is go ahead and put the stopcock back in it, fill it up, let it run, warm up, and then we'll come back in a few days and go ahead and flush it out again. Yeah, there's a lot of junk in the overflow too. Oh, I did top off the oil. It's right at 6 quarts. Big old 392. That's what it takes. All right, we've got fresh oil and filter. We've flushed the radiator, kind of. Now I want to figure out why we're having some of the issues we're having inside, such as when we turn the key on, we're not always getting it to start, as well as why is it that I have no gauges that work. And we've got to figure out the light switch so the headlights don't stay on all the time. Lots to figure out. Let's jump inside and see what we can find. Alright, jumping on the inside here, we know that sometimes we can start with the key and sometimes we can't. But no matter what, I don't have gauges. So we need to figure out whether or not it's just a fuse issue or if there's something bigger. You know, I took that seat cover off and the seat's a lot better shape than I thought it was. Still smells a little bit, but not quite as bad. Of course, you can't tell, but there's missing floor here and there's a whole lot of missing floor over there. But I think once I spray this down with some urine cancel stuff, maybe some super clean, I don't know, it ought to smell better, and then we can always just put another cover over it and fixed. Now, once again, I would recommend if you actually really care about your interior or painted surfaces, maybe don't use super clean or dilute it out. You can dilute it and use the squirt bottle. Use this version, But me, I'm just going for the easy route. We've got the aerosol super clean, and this is covered in mold and animal waste and all kinds of nastiness. So let's just immediately kill all of that and try to bring back some resemblance of a interior. Now that door panel probably isn't going to come back, but I can still clean it up. Most of this carpet's going to have to go, which is a shame because other than on the driver's side, it's all here. This door is not nearly as dirty, but the door panel is wasted. Maybe if this truck doesn't sell right away, we could pull this panel off and try to rebuild it. Yeah, there's just not much floor left. And it's worse when you lift up the carpet. Yeah, it's much worse. We might be able to fix that. It does not smell as bad in here. I think a lot of it was contained in that seat cover. Thank goodness. It did protect what was left of the seat. Now some of it soaked in, but this will kill off most of the bacteria and germs. I don't believe they recommend this for killing bacteria and germs, but man, it'll make you cough, so I'm sure it'll kill some bugs too. That's coming off really well. Look at that. Little super clean. And what's left of this one? Yeah, it's kind of coming clean. It also really doesn't matter. Not enough left to matter. In the meantime, I do read my comments, and I was told there probably is a switch back there. So I've got a new knob with the attachment here. So I got a new headlight switch knob with the rod. Just kind of put that in there. Oh, look at that. So I have a switch that I don't need because I can turn my headlights off now. And now I don't have to go and hook the battery all the time. Awesome. But now we got to figure out these gauges. If you need a headlight switch for a 1974 International Scout, Travelall, or even Harvester truck, hit me up. I've got one. I'll sell it to you at a discount. When a screwdriver will work, you have to upgrade tools. Now, this little brake controller for the trailer is a hydraulic one, so they're not safe to use anyway. And now the screws are pretty much rusted in place. They're not going to go anywhere, so let's just remove them quickly. Oh, and I'm under a tornado watch with tornado warnings just north and west of me. So if I just bail on you, you'll know why. Did that do the trick? It should have done the trick. Not in holding it. There it is. And we can use... Oh, wait. It'll come out now. Come out. We'll get a pair of pliers on that. That'll come out. We need to get this hydraulic brake line unhooked before AC duct is... Ouch. Not probably going to get reused the way it is, but if we really ever hook the AC back up, we could always rerun this with new stuff. So the phone just went off. We've got a tornado on the ground coming towards me. I'm going to go ahead and seek shelter right now, but in the meantime, you guys hang tight because in the YouTube world, you'll be right back to watching it in just a second. Well, I'm back from sheltering and crisis avoided for now, but I'm going to keep an eye on the weather. In the meantime, I've checked these fuses in the glove box. Let me show you. And those are all testing good. So now I'm going to go ahead and start disassembling this, which just seems like a lot of fun, and try to figure out if maybe there's something behind the cluster that I need to work on. Maybe the bulbs are just out. I don't know, but we're going to find out. Well, I got this loose, but just as I suspected, this aftermarket stereo is integral to holding this thing in. So I'll go ahead and pop it out, which should be fun. You just had to make it fit, didn't you? That's all right. It's got the trim piece. It'll be fine. Ugh. Well, I was messing with the switch, trying to figure out why these gauges didn't work, why the lights didn't work. Look at them now. So the trick was these circuit boards have little nuts on the back side of them, and they're just made out of like pot metal. So I cleaned all those contacts, and I'm assuming now, let's fire this up and see. Well, our oil pressure's low, but it exists now. So I feel better about it. And the lights work. And in typical old-fashioned dash lights, they were like this. And this bulb's out, and I don't have one. That's a specialty bulb I don't have. It goes up in here. But the rest of these were push-in style bulbs. And I just happened to have some LEDs left over. And it took a little bit, but I got them switched out for LEDs, and it is so much brighter than it was before. So with the trim piece back on, I could have replaced the switch because it is a little dirty, but that'll clean up with use. Just like the starter's starting to work more. The more I use it. I'm sure that temperature gauge will come up if I sit there and keep it running. One step closer. What did we get accomplished today? Well, we've got a working mechanical fuel pump with a new fuel filter. All of that's set up and all of the temporary stuff is gone, other than we're only using one fuel tank because there isn't a second fuel tank. It's just fine. For where we're going, it'll be fine. We changed the oil filter, all that's new. I put the air breather back on. That's good. We eliminated the trailer brake and got that out of the way because we're not going to use it. Cruise control will probably be next. We went ahead and got our gauges working and our dash lights, so that's huge. We haven't had those since the beginning. Pretty great we have them now. So I guess at this point, we need to get the back window working. So the back window was kind of froze up, not really working, not sure if it was electrical or what, but I had ran a power wire over to the battery and that seemed to make it work. We're going to see if we can do that a little bit more permanent and get that window locked back in and working again. And then, you know, I've got basically 2 days to do as much body work as I can get done and maybe even paint it. I don't know. Let's see what we can get done. I have lubed the crap out of this and this thing works really, really well now. All right, when we put this back in here, we started switching out the relays. And I did one relay, not the other. Now what we want to do is start testing this with the relays that we have, and if we're not working, switch relays out until we are working, and then put the window back in. That's really where we're at. So let me go hook up some power and then we'll test it. Well, just to catch you up, I've got new relays in place. The wiring was sketchy to say the least, and the switch needed a little bit of love, but I just can't get my fingers around it. Okay, we got positive engagement each way, and it returns to neutral. So now I'm going to put it all back together, put the glass in it, and let's hope that it works. Unfortunately, I couldn't readily find the original relays, and again, I wasn't sure which relay was which and how it was supposed to work. I looked them up online. I couldn't find that specific relay. So to me, it made more sense to just go ahead and replace the relays with readily available ones that you can get off the shelf at pretty much any parts store. So if this ever happens again or to the future owner, you can get parts. It's the idea, right? Moment of truth. We managed to store this and it didn't get broken yet. So we're going to try to put it back where it belongs. Carefully. Alright, we're a little off here. We can get back on track. Aha! See what I did there? Alright, we're going to have to zip tie that down so that that's out of the way. And those. Alright, well. Okay, I've got everything secured and I got the track greased up. Woohoo! Oh, oh. Now let's test it. So the button's a little tricky. It's not the part that I did, it's the key switch is just a little touchy. There we go. It's a little nerve-wracking when you're dealing with an expensive piece of glass, but it worked. We've got it working again. So I think we are set to now move on to something else. Now, as I mentioned in the last video, I really wanted to see this go home with one of you guys. Since I didn't get any interest, no offense guys, I can only wait so long. I kind of wanted to make it look a little better, maybe get a little bit more attention. I'm not going to try to tell you that I'm going to do this right, and I'm not going to try to tell you that this is what you should do. I'm not going to go out and scam anybody into buying this Travelall thinking it's in great shape. We're going to keep the price low, and we're going to do it with what you might have available in your home, whether that's your home garage, your home carport, or your home driveway, whatever. We're going to try to do it as simple as possible, as cheap as possible, and as quickly as possible, because I got 2 days. We got to go camping in this thing, and I've got it mechanically working, but now we want to make it just, you know, be the better vehicle in the campground. I mean, I like that it gets attention, but let's get it the right kind of attention. And to do that, we're going to spruce it up with a little bit of short strand fiberglass and some paint. And of course, it's an international, so we're going to go shopping for tractor paint. So many tractor colors. You know, I was looking at this gloss white because that's what basically the original was alpine white on the roof and on the bottom section. And it's $26.99. And then I saw this international white, and I do have an international, and you can tell they repainted it more of a tan color than the white. So the original paint was white and the repaint was tan. Well, this international white is kind of tan, and look at this. I think this is what we're getting. Yep. Well, they don't seem to have the burnish gold metallic. And yes, we could just do something like this or something like this, but it doesn't really, if we're gonna paint it, let's at least make it sparkle. And I didn't have good luck adding sparkle to the tractor paint last time, so I guess we're going to the parts store. But we did get some tractor paint. I mean, it'd be dumb not to get it. $6.79, come on, we're getting it. Well guys, we couldn't find the international color. I'll pop it up on the screen, but they were nice enough to loan me their book here, their paint book, and we found a 2021 color called Zeus 3, and it's very similar. There's a Zeus, very similar to that international color that we couldn't find. It's not in any book. We couldn't find it online, so we're gonna just mix up a single stage of this for about 200 bucks. And 200 bucks is not completely out of the realm of doing it yourself, because you look at tractor paint and you're going to end up spending 200 to 300 bucks on that anyway. This is real paint versus tractor paint, so it's a little less forgiving, but we're just doing that middle section. So as promised, we'll do the top and the bottom in tractor paint, and then we'll at least make this pretty. Now, some of you will say I should have waited to find the right color, go find a paint shop, that's all they do, and get the correct color for the vehicle. No, I'm not going to do that. No offense to anyone that's doing a full restore. Yes, go do that. Make sure it's color matched. It's not going to drastically increase the price of the vehicle when you go to sell it, but maybe some purists will appreciate it. In our case, the truck has been repainted once already. I don't think they repainted the dark brown, just the white, which is now tan, or as we found out, international white, which is a whole different white. But I was in and out of O'Reilly's in 15 minutes. I went in there, said, hey, can you guys find this paint color for me? I pulled up the paint codes from 1974, international. I had it right on my phone. Thank God for the internet. And no, they couldn't find it. And they looked in their own books. Nope, no internationals even in the system. So we did the best thing we could do, which is pull out that book and look through and found something that I could deal with. It's not 100%. It's probably not what the vehicle looked like, but I liked it because it's brown, it's metallic, it had a little bit of gold in it. I think it serves the purpose, which is putting some color back on the truck. Now, could I have just fixed the rust and then just redone the white? Absolutely. And left the rest that patina, yeah, that would have been fine. We're halfway there. Why don't we just finish the job? All the hard part will be fixing the rockers and the wheel wells and the roof. There's just a little bit of rust in a few places, other than the tailgate. A little bit of rust in a few places on the brown, so I could have just left it and it'd been fine. But we're halfway there. We might as well just finish it. And the whole point is I'm going to show you guys how to do it in your own yard, carport, garage, whatever, for, geez, I don't know. Granted, I got some deals on paint, and I do have some supplies already at home. But let's say you don't have supplies at home. I've got less than $300 in paint supplies. Okay, so the one thing that I didn't get on this trip was any kind of filler to fill in the rust hole gaps. So we can use scrap metal and weld it in, but I'm going to assume that you don't have a welder. We're going to do it the backyard way, and then if anybody buys this thing later and wants to make it better, by all means, they'll know exactly where to cut. Okay, so granted, your tally is going to be different than my tally. We're just under $300 into this. Really, we're barely over $200 into this because I have stuff left over from the 18 van. So I mentioned needing some filler, you know, for the holes, and then we'll put some short strand fiberglass over top. But just something so it doesn't just fall into the hole. I think I'm just going to pull up here and grab something. Nobody's home. Perfect. Problem solved. Hopefully they won't notice till summer, or they can just blame Amazon or something, and then we won't get in trouble. So if you're going to invest that kind of money, that was free. Because at the end of the day, we're not trying to make this great. We're just trying to make it really okay-ish. Can we go 20 feet away and or on camera and say, man, that really looks good? That's really all we're going for. Okay, we're here. Let's unload. So to do this right, what we should do is come in here and cut all this out where it's really bad and patch in new metal. That's the right way to do it. And if I were looking to fully restore this truck, that's what I would do. But I can't even afford the windshield. That thing is $500 and doesn't include installation. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to pay that. So let's just pretend like it's not broken and make the rest of it look good. But for the most part, we're just going to tape, scuff, fix this with short strand fiberglass and the screen you guys saw me take, and then we're going to prime it and paint it. It's going to look beautiful. Don't get too close because you'll see how bad it really is. This will be fine. It's going to look good. Now, not only do we have to fill in these holes, but they use silicone to, I guess, keep the paint on and the water out. So we're going to need to peel all that off so it doesn't gum up our sander. Although at this point, I don't really care. We're just gonna call it good. So I'm guessing they had a leak, which is why the floor is missing on this side, and they thought this would fix it. Maybe it did. I don't know. It's still leaking though. I'm gonna guess this might be more of the problem than this. But let's start knocking this down. This is kind of boring, so if I fast forward, it's decent music, right? The last time I painted, I wanted to do most of the body work outside to keep the dust down, but it's raining and windy and cold. We're just gonna do this. By the way, I'm starting with 220, which is probably overkill, but I'm gonna hit all of the obvious spots with 220. Anything harder, I can always come back with 120 or even 80 grit, and then the rest we could probably just Scotch-Brite, primer it, and call it good. Casualty. Gotta be careful sanding the jagged rocks there. Alright, so I hate sanding, and again, picked the longest roof. So let's just start by doing a little repair here. Let that set up while we're doing some other sanding. There's plenty of sanding to go around, so let's get some action going with some short strand fiberglass. Now if you remember earlier, we grabbed this screen off of a front door, and what we're going to do is kind of eyeball it there and say, yep, yep, that looks about right. Let's do that one. Now we're going to fit it. So we're going to use this to kind of hold our short strand fiberglass in place. So let me get that tucked in there. Now we'll get out our short strand fiberglass, start putting that in there, fill in all the rest of the gaps, and it'll look like a brand new Travelall. Now work our short strand fiberglass together with some hardener. That gives us a limited amount of time to work with it, so once it kind of looks mixed in, we got to get to town. It's already starting to set up, so that's good. We'll let it go ahead and finish heating up, and then we'll come back and fill in the rest there, fill in the rest on that side, and then we'll start tackling the rest of the body. The key thing I want to point out, guys, is this doesn't have to be perfect, and it's fast. Granted, I got a lot of sanding to do to kind of get that shape back, but only because I care a little bit. Beyond that, this is a weekend job. We are literally going to scuff the rest of the paint. I'm only hitting a few extra spots that have some pretty big dings in them, and anywhere that there was rust, I'm trying to smooth it out enough that it'll look okay, or if it's bad enough, we'll throw a little fiberglass in that. I'm not just going nuts on this. I felt like I had to go overboard on the A-Team van because it was going to be in front of cameras and everything else. At the end of the day, it didn't matter. People actually liked the runs and the drips. They chuckled, they laughed, they said, wow, this is pretty awesome. So we're gonna make this a weekend in the garage or carport or driveway paint job. And this is how we're fixing the rust. It's gonna be fine, guys. Will it rust again? Not right there. Yes, it's gonna rust, and that's okay. It's a 1974 Travelall. It's a truck. It's a family cruiser, but it's a truck. And I'm telling you, it'll be okay. Anyway, let that set up and we'll start working on the rest of this. Now this may be the moment that some of you would get pretty frustrated or disappointed. So I'm on my third round of adding short strand fiberglass because I did it in layers. Couple reasons for that. Number one, it's easier to work with, it dries faster. Number two, I'm trying to keep the shape of that roof. And the frustration builds because is it ever gonna end? You know, honestly, it's only been 3 or 4 hours that I've been working on this part, and in between waiting on it to dry, I'm sanding down body panels. So it's not like I'm wasting the time. And at this point, if this dries really well and I can get it smoothed out with the sandpaper I have, we could almost be ready for primer tonight. So that's a single day of just kind of busting butt, doing the sanding, doing the fiberglass. And if you remember, we also fixed the window today. So it's not like I've just done the one thing. Is it going to be perfect? No. Is it going to be pretty good? I think so. The key on this will be getting that perfect edge along the front of this roof, trying to match all the way around the windshield, which is hilarious because this windshield rubber isn't perfectly straight. But from, about where you're standing, if I have this, a contrasting color to this black, you're going to notice it. So I'm trying to get it as straight as possible to my eye, even if it's not what it originally was. With the frustrations aside, we can now finish up the sanding, start on some of this body work on the side. I'm going to finish sanding and we'll pick up when I get back from the store with more supplies. Yep, you can't show up to buy just 1 or 2 things and not fill your cart here at Harbor Freight. Just the way it goes. Thought I'd get the Harvester of Sorrow out today and stretch its legs. It's been sitting for about a week and it needed to go for a run. It's getting a lot colder out, so definitely need to get back to putting coolant in this thing. All right, back to painting. Well, we're back in the shop. I obviously started the morning running to Harbor Freight, and now we're going to take everything that we purchased, which is way too much stuff, and we're going to try to get this thing finished up on the bodywork side, because I really want to get this thing into primer and maybe even paint in the next 24 hours. Let's just see how it goes for now. So I'm going to get back to what I love doing the most. Well, I did another layer of short strand fiberglass just to fill in some of the dips and just level things out a little bit. but it's coming together really, really good. To the point that you may be able to tell something was done on the roof when I'm finished with it, but you won't maybe know how bad it was. And really, that's the goal, is we're just trying to hide what was going on there. I started doing some sanding on the roof, despite my better judgment, but there were some areas where paint was, you know, exploding off of the roof. And unfortunately, I just can't do it with this rack on there. So I went ahead and pulled the screws. We're going to take the rack off. But don't worry, we're putting it back on. I just need it off long enough to sand it down and shoot it. And with that, this luggage rack has the stainless strips down the roof, and it's just 3 screws per strip, so we're going to pull all those off, get the strips off. Go ahead and hit it with the sander one good time to get it smooth-ish. Again, it's on the roof, don't care that much about it. It's going to be white, so you won't see much of it. But let's just do our best, our due diligence, to just knock it down, and then we can cover it up and nobody will ever know. Like I said, you may notice some body work was done here, but you won't exactly know what unless you watch this video. I mean, I'm doing all this work, I'm going to paint it. It's got a busted windshield. I simply don't want to spend the money on a windshield that I'm probably going to just break anyway. So, you give and you take. Okay, back to sanding. So, sanding the roof. Some of this is worse than I expected. Like this screw hole is completely gone, which is why our roof is falling down, because all those screw holes have had some sealant on them, but obviously it sat forever and just collected water, and once you get a little rust started, it just grows and grows and grows. So I'm going to finish getting all this peeling paint off. We're going to try to attack some of this rust and see what we can do to salvage the roof. I don't want to cut the whole roof off for just a few holes, because there's a hole there, there's a bigger hole over there, and then there's a couple along the way, but most of them are just the tiny screw hole left from like that. And yes, it rusted, but it didn't destroy the entire roof like it did over here. So I think we can fix those few spots, get it all sanded down, and shoot it white, make it pretty, and move on. This is turning out really good, by the way. A little bit more sanding, and we'll have this whole roof done. And then we can start on some other parts. Well, I've been digging the rust out, and let me just show you. So this is the part of the wheel well where it comes down right there and then enters the curved part of the rear quarter, and there's foam behind it because they just went into the spare tire well and filled it with foam. And then this is some metal. You can see all the different layers there, but a whole lot of Bondo. And you know, it's solid, but the metal holding the Bondo is gone. So we're going to improve our odds just a little bit. We're going to take some of our window screen, we're going to put it in place, screw it in, then we'll come back through here with short strand fiberglass and fill all this in. Yes, 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 I know. The right way to do it. I've already blown the budget on this just by doing what you're seeing. I think this is going to work. It's also going to be real difficult for it to rust when there ain't no metal in it. Perfect. Now we'll come back in and mud it in. We'll never even know it was there. Well, I've been sanding like crazy on this thing, and it's starting to take shape in the right ways. This is a project where I said I'm going to scratch and shoot it, and then decided, well, let's see if we can fix the roof, and then that led to let's see if we can fix this next thing, and I said I'm not going to pull the trim off, but honestly it was so easy to pull off. I went ahead and pulled the trim off. I mean, things escalated quickly. Let's just say that. You take a look down the rabbit hole and then you fall in. That's basically what happened. This is still going to be a backyard, do-it-yourself style body and paint because we're not doing everything the right way. And it's still going to happen in just a couple of days, but probably not in time to get it all in one video. So what I've decided to do is we're going to split this up in a part 1, part 2. You guys were okay with that on the Buick video, so we're going to try it on this one. I mean, technically there was already a part 1 when we got it running and driving. So I think it's all going to work out well. I think you guys are going to like the result of this thing, and I'm ready to go camping. So I'm going to get this video out to you guys. I'm going to get back to sanding, and then hopefully you'll see me out camping in this by next week. So yes, things did escalate a little bit, but not too much. We're not going crazy over this, and we're not going to break the budget. Hopefully there's enough in this video for you guys to watch and learn what to do and what not to do. If you guys want to do it right, there are plenty of guys out there, plasma cutters, welders, CNC machines, all that stuff. They'll show you exactly how to do it right. But I'm doing it the quick, down and dirty way, get this thing back out there, use it as a camper just for one trip, and then it needs to go home with somebody else so they can love on it a little bit. So stay tuned for part 2 of the do-it-yourself body and paint here at Buff's Garage. Make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for part 2.